Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. It is 8:05 on this Tuesday, November 11th, and on this Veterans Day, of course, reflecting on what the holiday and the occasion means for service members of all the different branches and their commitment to serve and protect. And as we start off this live stream here in the Wave Now studio, and we thank you for joining us, folks, it has now also been a week since the devastating UPS cargo plane crash. Now the lives we know who have been lost, including the plane's own crew members. That plane, the images seared into most of our minds now for what feels like will be an indefinite amount of time. And that crash into two businesses just outside of Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport, resulting in the deaths of several people who were on the ground. A reminder of just some of the viewpoints and perspectives of that day. And in the latest update from this evening, the count is 14 people have died. Mayor Craig Greenberg confirming, though, all victims they've been searching for have been accounted for. But there is still no official release of many of the names of those victims. And also, we know work continues to try to clean up the site. Crews plan for some places in the disaster zone and nearby to finally reopen. Grieving families continue to deal with the loss, the permanence of the loss of their loved ones. And all this as the community is still continuing to support each other in their time of need.
There are folks working both on and off the scene to get the answers that we're all looking for. And I know the community is waiting for the victims' names. I spoke with the coroner just a couple of hours ago, and she continues to work as quickly as they possibly can with DNA testing coming back from the labs quickly, to speeding that process up to try to get answers and closure, most importantly, for the families so that their grief can now move to the next phase of hopefully beginning to heal.
We also know the NTSB plans to release its preliminary report about the crash soon, but still some time for them to get as much information as they can collected. And then they say they will try to release that as soon as they can. An update tonight also, Mayor Greenberg tweeting out this image, and we'll replay it if you're wanting to check in. It is a Community Resource Center phone line for anyone who's been impacted by the crash. We're going to read the number again out loud. It's 502-473-5271. So again, the number to call, 473-5271. If you need help connecting to support resources, we're told that number to start off on its first night tonight. There will be someone to answer your phone call up until 9 p.m. You can call it at this hour if you need to. They're going to wrap up at 9 tonight, but it will also be open here on out from 7 in the morning to 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday. So 6 days a week, should you or someone you know still want to reach out to get in touch with that particular resource. Tonight, as we prepare, of course, beyond just what we have here in the live stream to break down with you guys, go over the big stories of the day, just in this different venue and channel on the live streams, on social media, and of course on the Wave Now app, is the sort of processing the grief and understanding more of the names of the victims of those who've died from the plane crash. One of them we've learned this afternoon, Matthew Sweets, and is part of our continuing coverage on this, thanks to our night team of reporters as well. Our Julie Richardson had an opportunity to meet a man who says he remembers Matthew Sweets from their time shared as classmates at U of L, and learning from Sweets, who was a high school and college graduate, born and raised, or certainly of Louisville, and so much of his life spent here. And what we're going to play for you is a part of our Julia Richardson's conversation with this man, Victor Anderson, who also has a UPS or an aircraft mechanics connection. And this will be part of the continuing reports. You're going to join us to tune in to tonight at 11.
I work aircraft maintenance at UPS, so it was all a complete shock to me. I was picking up my little one from basketball practice when it initially happened, and it was something that just threw me completely, threw a complete curveball, because aircraft accidents do happen, but then when it's right in your backyard and then something so close to you, and then a fleet that I work on every day, it kind of hits home a little different. So it was it was very devastating to say the least, and then start to see the smoke in the air. And when it actually hit, it was like real life, you know. You don't really, you get the messages and the texts and the alerts, but then once you start to see the aftermath of what really happened, it really hits you. So you hold on to hope and just pray for the best, because at that point, you know, it's the experts and the people involved trying to get him back to, you know, normal day-to-day living, that you just put it all in their hands and God's hands to really bring them back. And especially when you got two little kids and a partner, you know, that look up to everything you do, and they lean on you for that support. So yeah, it was very devastating. It's amazing to see how people can come together and unite to help one another, because that's truly what we're on earth to do, is to serve people. And especially when you can do that when you're not willing to, or when you don't really have to, and you have your own families and things of that nature to take care of. But to see how many people have poured in prayers, whether it's prayers, the donations, the thoughts, everything matters at this point. And it's just pretty cool to see everyone come together and be there for one another.
And that was part of our Julia Richardson's conversation with, his name's Victor Anderson. You can certainly join us tonight, again, as I mentioned, on Wave News at 11 for a more in-depth updated report of what we've been following throughout this Tuesday, on this Veterans Day, of course, a week after the catastrophe, which so many agencies from across the Commonwealth, you know, rushed into Louisville to help local emergency crews handle what they could to try to contain just the blaze that exploded. Wave News reporter Logan Perrone, as part of our team coverage today, is also explaining how the growth of our state's bourbon industry actually influenced first responders to be ready should an event of this kind of scale ever pop up.
The Bardstown Fire Department was one of many agencies in our area and across the state that responded to Tuesday's UPS plane crash, and they did so with a tool and a resource that we're told is especially needed here in Kentucky.
Be advised, there's been a large explosion off Fern Valley Road by the airport. Lots of black smoke.
More than 200 firefighters, local and statewide, showed up to the UPS plane crash last Tuesday. A handful provided trailers, just like this one.
I think it's a testament to all departments across the state of Kentucky, with the distillery industries and their communities, to be prepared for these types of events.
Bardstown Fire Chief Todd Spaulding says they have 1,200 gallons of foam on hand to fight flammable liquid fires. The town and state's booming bourbon industry runs the risk of those large fires, such as the 1996 Heaven Hill fire nearly 3 decades ago.
As this industry has grown in the state of Kentucky, you're starting to see a lot more foam resources around the state of Kentucky.
Other departments also have similar trailers. Between Bardstown, Lexington, and Covington, close to 3,000 gallons were brought to the site of the crash.
Update on foam that you have coming. I've got 600 gallons coming from Covington. I've got 1,000 coming from Lexington and 1,200 coming from Bardstown.
Kentucky's Air National Guard Fire Department also used its own specialized truck with 4,000 gallons of foam. The special mixture smothers the flame and traps vapors from flammable liquids that could spark up. Chief Spaulding says it's a resource his department is glad to have and share when the need arises.
You take a lot of pride in what you do, and to be there at that type of incident, they wanted to be there, and they wanted to be there to help. And so having those resources available to help our brothers and sisters across our community in the state of Kentucky is really important to us.
Fortunately, none of the foam that was brought here from Bardstown had to be used during Tuesday's incident, but it's a tool that the chief says you are glad to have. We hope you never have to use. Reporting in Bardstown, Logan Perrone, Wave News.
Also new in this evening, we're hearing from the company that does the maintenance checks for UPS's fleet of MD-11 aircraft like Flight 2976. And it's the first time we're hearing, getting the statement since the horrific accident. We're going to play a graphic with some of those statements for you. Coming from ST Engineering is the contractor saying, quote, "We're saddened by the unfortunate accident. Our thoughts are with those who have been impacted, especially the bereaved families." Their statement goes on to say that UPS is a customer and that they provide airframe maintenance for their MD-11s. Quote, "We're not able to comment further at this point in time as investigations are ongoing. We will cooperate fully if the relevant authorities reach out to us. Now, our WAVE troubleshooters found that maintenance workers with ST Engineering did repair a crack on the doomed plane's left engine pylon back in 2019. The NTSB found ultimately the bulk of that pylon was still attached to the engine as it detached from Flight 2976 during its takeoff roll. Federal officials have sent a team to UPS's contract maintenance facility, which again is operated by ST Engineering, but this facility is in San Antonio, and they're going to collect maintenance records. The plane was there for 6 weeks beginning in December. Now touching on some other stories, see if we can play. There we go. I'm setting up some more video for you all with more headlines on this Tuesday evening. Lawmakers set step by step closer to reopen the federal government, and the Supreme Court also now weighing in on whether funding for SNAP benefits can continue while the government itself is shut down. Today, the Trump administration went before the High Court asking to keep the funding freeze in place. Last week, one of the justices, Ketanji Brown Jackson, imposed a short-term pause to give courts additional time to review appeals. That was in response to lower court rulings requiring that the administration fully fund SNAP for the month of November. And I believe there was an update based on this last reading that the court actually did make a ruling that this freeze is going to stand as it was, or the freeze is going to stay for full benefits, and we'll certainly touch on further explanations from the justices in the ruling tonight on Wave News at 11. So I believe that is the latest update on that we'll certainly try to get you more information. Likely, you might have gotten the push alerts on your phones from the Wave News app and on wave3.com. So I believe that was the latest from the Supreme Court that for now in this appeal that those funds for SNAP are staying frozen, and we'll expand a bit more on that tonight. We do know also an estimated 42 million Americans rely on SNAP benefits to keep food on the table. At home, we've checked in with Metro United Way, for example, as they launched their Hardship to Hope Food Relief Fund. Within a week, they say they have seen that tremendous need in our community, tracking data since November 3rd. They say they got more than 2,800 applications. More than half of those households were approved to receive the Kroger cards, which they asked for. Almost 6,000 people were approved for assistance, with more than $300,000 in assistance approved too. Metro United Way's Hardship to Hope Food Relief Fund says its ultimate goal is to help families in Jefferson, Bullitt, Oldham, Shelby, Clark, Floyd, and Harrison County. So you see how the casting of the wide net extends, beyond just Kentucky, extending into southern Indiana as well. And more stories tonight. The city of Louisville is, it's not quite an audible, but in this analogy, it is a mid-year budget adjustment, as Mayor Greenberg explained. It's tax dollars being moved from certain projects that are no longer being funded, they're no longer happening, to instead now pay for other things, other items. Wave News anchor Brian Schlonsky was there at the mayor's meeting, the briefing today, to take a closer look at where the money came from and where it could be going soon.
Expectations are high, and they should be. Accountability is high, and it should be. So when it comes to how we manage our budget, we have to deliver.
Today, Louisville's mayor discussing your tax dollars. Calling it a mid-year budget adjustment, Mayor Craig Greenberg says there is roughly $17 million that can be moved around right now to fund everything from public safety improvements to affordable housing to parks and swimming pools. A closer look at just some of the proposed investments show a new truck for the fire department, resources for rental assistance and support for the homeless, new lighting at parks and pools, and new snow equipment to help the city's response to winter weather. So where would the money come from for this? The city says $10 million is a surplus coming from last year's budget. $5 million is being reallocated from U of L Health's project to bring a birthing center to Marian Elizabeth Hospital. Those plans scrapped by the hospital, citing Medicaid cuts. The other $2 million, it was originally set to go to Family Health Center for a renovation at the U.S. Marine Hospital in the Portland neighborhood. Instead, that money would go to new health clinics at Americana World Community Center and PRP High.
When making this proposal, we listened to a lot of people on Metro. We listened to Metro Council people. We listened to the community.
Speaking of Metro Council, they will hear the proposal and ultimately decide if it's approved.
Thanks to Brian for that report. Now, several other beneficiaries could see this extra money because of the budget surplus. We're talking organizations or names like the Louisville Orchestra, the Dayspring College for Living, Dare to Care, and their food, pantry operations, and the Louisville Metro Animal Shelter. So just to name a few of the potential beneficiaries, we'll of course let you know what council ultimately does
What is
decide.
your general read on the situation?
Okay, sometimes the technology gets a little finicky, so my bad on that. Okay, so some context as we're about to head to break. What we're going to play there is something I have prepared for you when we come back from break on Wave News Extra. The context, if you remember the big update from last week, how the FAA ruled to ground all MD-11 aircraft, much like the plane that crashed here last week. It was in response, of course, to UPS Flight 2976. Now, before that announcement, both UPS and FedEx did announce that they themselves were temporarily grounding their respective MD-11s, but legal experts are weighing in, noting this is an actually unusual sweeping action by the FAA. It's been a cargo plane only since 2015. UPS had previously announced, though, it was going to want to phase out MD-11s entirely by the year 2032. And this expert source and aviation attorney you're going to hear from, sitting down in an extended interview with Wave News reporter Meredith Lee. You're going to hear that conversation as we come back from the break. We're going to actually dive right into that once we do come back from this pause. And so you'll hear Meredith's conversation with an aviation attorney based out of Miami, but in the context of the FAA ruling to ground UPS's and FedEx's MD-11. So we're going to take that break and be right back with much more of tonight's Wave News Extra.
What is your general read on the situation? What is your general read on the situation?
Well, it's a drastic move by obviously a private company that is perhaps under a great deal of pressure, as are other companies like Boeing and the companies that perform maintenance on the aircraft that tragically crashed in Louisville, to get a hold on the safety of this MD-11 model, which is a significant part of UPS's fleet as well as FedEx. I understand that FedEx also, voluntarily grounded its MD-11 fleet. But more than that, recently the FAA ordered, with its legal authority, all users of MD-11, at least in the United States, to indefinitely ground their fleets of aircraft. So we've seen a series of moves, beginning with the cargo carriers, main ones being, of course, UPS and FedEx, followed shortly thereafter by the FAA ordering UPS, FedEx, and every other user of an MD-11 to ground it, which is an even more dramatic move, something that we see very, very, very rarely. And it tells me that whatever UPS and FedEx and now even the government is hearing or seeing during these very early days of this investigation concerns them enough that they don't want to take a risk, and they're actually prohibiting anybody from taking the risk of flying one of these planes.
And would you be able to talk about what that concern might be with this plane, I guess, in your eyes?
Sure. I mean, what happened as far as the structural detachment issue that happened on the left side of this aircraft is a very rare event. And whenever there's a plane crash, and unfortunately in the United States, whether it's big planes, small planes, there are about 1,000 plane crashes every year. Not often as deadly as this tragic accident, but they do happen. And very often, how do I put this? The potential sources of the issue vary from, piloting to maintenance to manufacturing to design. But put it this way, in the 1,000 plane crashes that happen every year, the FAA issues one of these emergency grounding directives, maybe once, maybe 0 times in any given year. So if the FAA is taking this action, then clearly they believe that a potential part of what led to this accident wasn't just maintenance and wasn't just the action of the pilots. I don't think there's not a lot of concrete information that the pilots did anything wrong, and therefore that there might be something wrong with MD-11s in general. And beyond that, it's hard to know at first glance, because the federal government has exclusive jurisdiction of the investigation, what the specific issue may be. But it is likely something related to the integrity of the engines and the integrity of really the structure of the aircraft itself, its ability to keep itself together and keep the engines functioning. So if the FAA is taking this action, it's because they believe there was something in the design or the manufacturing of the aircraft, not its maintenance and not the way it was being flown, that contributed to this accident and could cause another similar accident if these aircraft keep flying.
And planes like this are often older and have been refurbished. I know that with MD-11 specifically, they used to be passenger planes, but many of them have been converted into cargo planes. Does that kind of refurbishment and repurposing of these old transportation vehicles, really, does that open them up to more legal liability should something go wrong? The older a plane is, or the more work it's had done?
Potentially. I mean, the refurbishment is one of the most notable things about this aircraft. And as you well say, Meredith, they're not flying passengers anymore. They're only doing cargo operations. The potential for legal liability for the manufacturer, which here is Boeing, after the merger several decades ago now with McDonnell Douglas, could be very, very, very large if indeed it turns out that there's something about the aircraft itself, this model, whether it's as refurbished or not, that caused this issue. And this grounding order by the FAA is an early signal. And again, the public only knows so much, but can only know so much, but it's an early signal that there might be some serious liability here for the designer, the manufacturer, because again, it's an order that really the FAA probably doesn't take lightly. And it only takes this type of action when it thinks there might be something wrong with these aircraft themselves. And I think that could be a source of very, very, very significant liability for the manufacturer, for Boeing.
And this is not the first Boeing plane crash that we've seen, but in others in years past, especially as it pertained to passenger planes that had crashed, it took a couple of those to have Boeing ground those fleets. In your time serving as an aviation attorney, have you seen or heard of any other similar cases to this one? Any details that stuck out to you?
I don't think since the Boeing MAX crashes, which is what, of course, you're referring to, and those have been the most horrific and deadly passenger crashes in recent years, and we're talking 2018, 2019. I don't think since the Boeing Max crashes, we've seen such drastic government action like the FAA has taken in relation to these aircraft. And I say that for a couple of reasons. Number one, as I mentioned, these emergency grounding directives are very, very rare. Out of 1,000 crashes or more that might happen in the United States in any given year, at most a handful in any given year lead to an emergency FAA action. And secondly, this is an extraordinary FAA emergency action because there's nothing in the FAA's emergency grounding directive that tells users what the fix might be, right? This is an order from the FAA telling everybody out there, stop flying these things, but there's no timeline for when they might be able to fly again. There's no suggestion that, oh, we've detected the problem and it's fixable through this type of maintenance or this type of piloting maneuver. Right now, the FAA is responding very, very strongly to another Boeing aircraft. Yes, it's a McDonnell Douglas, but of course, after the merger, it's Boeing, saying, these things are not safe to fly at all. And like I said, there's no timeline for the FAA or users to become comfortable with the safety of these aircraft. So it reminds me a lot, certainly, of the Boeing Max incident. And I think maybe for that reason and how terrible those crashes were, and as you say, that it took a couple of extremely devastating, deadly crashes for there to be swift action. Now the FAA is acting more proactively. We're just a few days out from this tragedy. The NTSB is just at the beginning stages of its investigation, but the federal government is taking absolutely no chances. And it's not waiting for voluntary action from UPS, FedEx, or Boeing, even though they took some voluntary action. It's using the power of the government to prohibit anybody from flying these aircraft. And I haven't seen something like that since Boeing Max.
Do you think the fallout from the Boeing Max and the criticism over the response time to those for the FAA to take action has played a hand in how quickly they were willing to act after this one?
Potentially, and I certainly hope so. Not to rehash the history of the Boeing Max tragedy, but after the first Boeing Max crash in 2018 in Indonesia, there was a lot of finger pointing at the pilots and their alleged lack of experience, and a lot of sort of blaming everybody but the manufacturer, right? And a lot of faith that the manufacturer had gotten it right. And then only months later, we had a second tragic crash, and hundreds of people had to die before really there was a reality check and a little bit of truth saying that can't be the pilots if we're having two of these planes go down. So I think, I can't speak for the government and I don't know what conversations are happening behind the scenes, but if I were in the government, I think the amount of kind of blind faith that the government used to have, or maybe deference to Boeing saying, okay, they're, clearly they're on top of things. I think the Boeing Max and other incidents we've seen, the door blowout, a lot of recent incidents involving Boeing have probably shaken the government's faith in Boeing as a company and as a manufacturer, and as a communicator of what might be the true cause of accidents. And so I suspect that a lot of that is leading to this very dramatic, very proactive set of steps that the FAA has taken in response to the Louisville crash.
Welcome back in, folks, to tonight's Wave News Extra. And our thank you to Wave News reporter Meredith Lee for preparing and having that conversation with attorney Pablo Rojas, based in Miami, with the aviation firm Pothurst. Certainly a developing story over the weeks, months ahead as to what will come next as far as revelations from the NTSB. So something we will certainly continue to update and provide that insight for you through the myriad of ways you can connect with us here on Wave News. Looking ahead to what potentially might be the end of the government shutdown, the Senate's passing of a funding bill is the step that we just heard that breaking news about to start the week. It passes, but the House now has to consider that, take it to a vote, and see if that will also move along. But some in Kentucky say that this agreement as it stands could also end the growing and budding hemp industry, pun not intended. A provision that is in there seeks to severely limit the amount of hemp-derived THC that can be added to drinks and gummies that would be commercially available. Wave News reporter David Mattingly finds that this issue has Kentucky lawmakers at odds with each other in a bipartisan fashion.
It's Senator Mitch McConnell against bipartisan opposition from his own state. At stake are millions invested in the Kentucky hemp industry. It's a stroke of political irony. Senator Mitch McConnell was responsible for legislation reviving hemp as a potential cash crop for farmers. Now he's rolling that back after the sudden rise in popularity of drinks and gummies that contain hemp-derived and buzz-inducing THC. Hemp farmers and retailers say McConnell's proposed limits on THC would make their products illegal and their crops worthless.
Our farm is pretty much dead in the water. We were a tobacco producing farm for years. Of course, that's fallen off the cliff. We do have some beef cattle production, but we would be in a position to potentially sell off some land to cover the debt load that we have acquired through the production of hemp.
Despite injury opposition and objections from Senator Rand Paul, McConnell's hemp regulations passed the Senate as part of the funding bill intended to end the government shutdown. It now goes to the House, where there is bipartisan opposition in the Kentucky delegation. But if McConnell is successful, critics say the growth industry and the jobs it created would be over before it reached its full potential. The impact on consumers would take away products that have been gaining in popularity, and all eyes are now on Congress to see what happens next. David Mattingly, Wave News.
More stories tonight from the Wave News reporting team. We've learned the Silver Dollar on Frankfort Avenue. It's a spot for a nightcap you might be familiar with, but unfortunately they are closing their doors. The announcement confirmed this morning and made on social media. The restaurant and bar, known for also its live music, year-round Christmas lights, closing later this week. It is going to reopen Saturday for one final day of service. If you're familiar with this block where the Silver Dollar is standing for now. But the owners did not share a specific reason for closing, but they did take the time to thank the community for their support. In other updates, more upgrades coming to the Main Street underpass near Slugger Field. The city right now is looking for an artist to turn a blank canvas into a large mural. And this is the space you'd see, a 260-foot wall on Main Street between Hancock and Jackson Streets. This underpass has already been fitted with the LED lights you saw earlier for a more colorful path between to connect Nulu and downtown. Artists who would like to sign up for being that muralist can apply to design and sort of lay out the sketch for their vision for the mural. Applications will be open starting this Saturday, and they'll stay open through December 15th. We do have a list of requirements, though, that you can check out on our website on wave3.com. Coming back here in the studio, and it's a story that's gained some traction going beyond just Kentucky and the Commonwealth, but also around TikTok, as it were. It's a Southern Kentucky congregation now getting actually attention worldwide because their pastor said yes to a woman who reached out saying that she needed help for her baby. The pastor answered a call October 31st, the woman on the other end saying that her baby needed formula. Today, from this report from Phil Pendleton explaining in Somerset, the request and the pastor's response was part of a TikTok challenge experiment and a test to see how those who were being called or texted would respond.
It all began with a phone call and a request.
Can you help me?
A woman said her baby was hungry. She needed formula.
$17 is what she said.
Johnny Dunbar has pastored the Somerset Church for decades, but what happened next, he still cannot believe.
Some lady sends me a text and said, I sent your church a donation.
As it turns out, the woman was only posing as a mother, and it was a TikTok test, a social media challenge.
Because I said no 1,000 times. I've been scammed. I mean, I've been told every story in the world.
But he said yes this time.
Why should it be a big thing that we done the right thing?
The woman posing as the needy mother with her TikTok challenge has approached many other churches, even some nationwide in some other cities, including some mega churches. She said many of them refused to help, but after she posted how Dunbar and his church said yes.
And she told me Sunday, said, I only had 300 followers. And this is, I'm told, reached over 3 million people.
And now they're reaching out to him, offering his little congregation of about 100 money to help their various ministries.
It's blown me away. I wasn't just putting in time. I'm loving this people. I prayed for years, God, let our little old church touch the world.
The TikTok challenge was centered on a baby, much like the gospel itself.
God sent a little baby to rescue us. He didn't send a mighty warrior. He sent a little baby to rescue us.
Many blessings simply by answering a call and saying yes. In Pulaski County, Phil Pendleton, WKYT.
And in Phil Pendleton's reporting, the woman who started this TikTok challenge, she is from Kentucky herself, and she says as part of that reporting, disclosing numerous churches locally and nationwide did turn down her request for that support of the situation where this baby would have required some formula. More stories to share with you tonight. We know the Mary T. Meager Aquatic Center is keeping up with its own holiday traditions with their annual toy drive. If you're interested in supporting, you can start dropping off new unwrapped toys at the center on Reservoir Avenue. They're going to be open weekdays from 5 in the morning to 8 p.m. and the toys will go to Camp Quality Children. The program itself, Camp Quality, provides support to kids going through cancer treatment right now at no cost to their own families, and that's the support that they would receive. The Aquatic Center itself also hosts a special Thanksgiving swim. This one's going to be on November 27th. Swimmers can register right now on the center's website. We're coming back to the story that has taken a lot of twists and turns as we cross the river over into southern Indiana. And what I mean by that is it's an update on a man who was arrested as part of an alleged murder for hire plot in New Albany, but he's out of jail tonight. Investigators say Aaron Brown was hired to kill another man and his pregnant girlfriend. He reportedly tried to carry out this hit in a drive-by shooting back in May. Brown, apparently pleading guilty to 3 counts of criminal recklessness for shooting into a building, was supposed to serve more than a decade behind bars. But after just 43 days, he was let out on supervised release. However, Brown is not the only one who has been arrested so far in this murder for hire scheme. So with this update, our Wave News reporter, Fernando Garcia Franceschini, shows us there are now 7 people charged in this case.
Aaron Brown was arrested following a shooting on May 13th, where investigators say he shot into the Bohemian Barber Shop on Bank Street in downtown New Albany and hit a woman in the foot. Investigators say, though, she wasn't the target of the drive-by. They say Brown admitted he was hired by Joseph Flacia to murder another man and his pregnant girlfriend. That man told investigators he believes he was targeted after he allegedly left a motorcycle gang gang called Menace 13 on bad terms. By pleading guilty to 3 counts of criminal recklessness, Brown only served 43 days in jail. He will now spend more than 2,000 days under supervised release. A New Albany business owner, Henry Bachman, was arrested for 2 charges of complicity to commit murder in connection with the murder-for-hire plot. Investigators say he was the one who paid Brown to kill the 2 people. Bachman is scheduled to appear in court in December. Since then, 3 Louisville men have been arrested and charged with criminal gang recruitment. Investigators allege Derek Kearns, Rex Robinson, and Braylon Stewart are part of the Menace 13 gang. We spoke with Brown's attorney about whether we can expect Brown to testify against any of the other suspects in court.
The plea agreement that we filed with the court is 100% the agreement with Aaron Brown and the state.
All right, thanks to Fernando Garcia Francescini for this updated report. And court documents we did look at do not mention Brown needs to testify against any other suspects as part of this plea deal. Bachman's wife, who you heard the name brought up there, well, his wife, Courtney Bachman, was also arrested after the shooting. Her charges include corrupt business influence, theft, and money laundering. We'll be right back after this break on Wave News Extra with the last round of stories we're going to share with you. A focus, of course, on recognizing veterans for their service and one program connecting military families through their love of reading. We're going to share that with you on the other side of this break on Wave News Extra. Almost 8:48 on this Veterans Day evening. And before we do wrap up tonight, for any veterans maybe tuning into the stream, whether that's through the Wave Now app or on our different social media channels, thank you for what you've done and your commitment to service and for the country, for sure. So many celebrations, different recognitions and events throughout the day here in the Louisville metro community, extending out, of course, beyond the Commonwealth. And in that spirit, Wave News reporter Kirsten Foote, in one of these events, which of course there's so many we stopped by to visit, but this was a ceremony Kirsten went to in Elizabethtown on what this day itself means for the one veteran that she got to meet.
American Legion Hardin Post 113 has the largest amount of veteran members in Kentucky, and on Tuesday, their service was honored and recognized. Inside the American Legion were veterans from the Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, and Coast Guard, with service from the Korean War to present day. The ceremony including a motorcade ending at the post, as well as speakers and music. Joe Garrett is a Department of Kentucky American Legion commander. He tells me he knew when he was a kid that he wanted to be in the military. He originally wanted to join the Navy, but there was a 6-month wait list. So he joined the Army at age 17, serving through 2 tours in Vietnam, retiring a year after Desert Storm. He says this day is important to honor his and others' service, but also teaching the younger generation about what it means to serve.
It's a day that we can come together, sort of speak the same language, so to speak, but it's more than that. Because you'll see children and you'll see people who aren't associated with the military. That's our time to tell a story. Tell a story about veterans who came before us. And it's important that they hear this because a lot of folks don't hear it. Only, let me think here, 6% of all the people in this country ever served in the military. And it's been that way for a long time. So it's important for us to tell our story so other people know. We tell stories of other veterans and let them know just how important it is to serve your country.
The American Legion Hardin Post 113 holds weekly events as well as special events for veterans. To learn more, click on this story on wave3.com. In Elizabethtown, Kirsten Foote, Wave News.
Heading over to Baptist Health Hardin, where they also showed their gratitude to every veteran that they had a relationship with and contact with who served. The hospital hosted the solemn tribute for veterans who died during their hospital stay at Baptist Health Hardin. It's a walk of gratitude, allowing hospital staff and family members to pause for a moment in the day to recognize what the veterans did with their service during the walk. Flag placed over the veteran as their body is escorted before heading to the funeral home.
It's absolutely just an honor to be able to be there to support them, especially at the end of life.
And the walk of gratitude is held at the request of a veteran's family as a sign, as an offer and a gesture from the hospital team, should the family want to receive that recognition on behalf of their loved one in this context. And our last story tonight, more than 250,000 kids of military parents in the U.S., they do miss special moments each year as their parent is deployed. Essentially, the connection is on hold. And we've learned, and our great national correspondents learned, there's a nonprofit trying to strengthen that bond no matter the distance or the time zone. They're doing it through the power of reading together, child and parent. National correspondent Deborah Alfarone shows us how families are becoming united through reading on this week's edition of a program called The Good Side.
Hey guys, today I'm going to be reading you guys a book.
Military Acquisitions Officer Dave Bergman didn't want to let a couple of 1,000 miles and a few time zones stop him from connecting with his kids.
What's the hardest part about being deployed?
The potential to lose those connections that mean so much to you.
Monster trouble.
So while deployed to Afghanistan, he picked up a book and started reading to his son Grant. Not over FaceTime, he's recording it through a nonprofit called United Through Reading.
It's just a way to kind of insert yourself or be part of that routine. Just be as silly as you want and then kind of make memories with your kids.
Is he a good reader?
He's one of the best readers on earth to me.
Side no track for the monsters.
United Through Reading has been around for 36 years. The organization says they've helped close to 4 million military family members strengthen the bond between parent and child.
She got that monster.
Here's how it works. The military parent uses an app. They can read a physical book or one of the preloaded ebooks. When done, they upload the file to the cloud. Back home, the family gets an email. A special read-along is waiting for them. United Through Reading is funded through donations. They have books that are appropriate for all ages. There are hundreds of studies that boast about the benefits of reading for children. It expands their vocabulary, stimulates their imagination, and it can connect them to different worlds.
When your dad is deployed or maybe he's away working, do you miss him?
I miss him a lot. It doesn't feel right when he's not there.
And when you have him read to you through this United Through Reading, you get to watch him.
Yeah.
What's that like?
It's really happy and it makes me feel good. It just relaxes me and it feels better.
It's like he's there with you.
Yeah.
When you see your children watching their dad read with them, what does that feel like for you?
You miss him. You miss those sweet moments that, that it's treasured time, and you really realize how valuable that time is when they are home.
A lot of work on any of those deployments for any spouse to kind of keep the household together. Tools like United Through Reading and through other things that you could kind of connect and give your spouse a break. Like, hey, why don't you read? Or hey, can you record like 5 of these things?
And I can't wait to get home to see you. I know it's going to be a long time. Okay, goodbye.
Keeping storytime alive no matter the mission. In Virginia, with The Good Side, I'm Deborah Alfarone.
And the group United Through Reading works with publishing partners to get the physical books in kids' hands. They do that by taking donations from visitors through their website. Now, The Good Side, part of our great national coverage, and a reminder for stories that extend, here, of course, at the core of our community and our viewing area, the metro, southern Indiana, and extending out to regional, even national stories. All that is updated by our Wave digital team. And here is, we'll call it the canvas in which they do update all the stories in real time when we do get them and share them with you on the wave3.com homepage. This is the information we'll also send out to your smartphones through the Wave Now app, through the Wave Weather app. When there's weather to discuss, like we've been discussing to start the week with this cold snap that we've all been discussing in one way, shape, or form, and trying to stay as warm as possible. Looking forward to how we can prepare for the week ahead, what's left on the back half with Chief Meteorologist Kevin Harned getting ready preparing that for us tonight for Wave News at 11. Hope you'll join us when that starts after the NBA and NBC for the game wraps up in that fashion. Of course, our original reporting and our continued team coverage of the deadly UPS cargo plane crash. Appreciate your time, folks, as it is 8:56 in the Wave Now studio. Everyone joining us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, X, and the Wave Now app. Again, very worth repeating. Appreciate your time. Appreciate, by the way, all the veterans who call our community home. Thank you for what you have done in the service of fellow Americans. I'm Mosesto Sayep. We're going to wrap up and see you back here tomorrow night.